Hello everyone, it's Nick Peters, a gaming theologian. Why do some of us willingly take on difficult challenges? Okay, so, the lost levers here. Let's see, erase all files just to make sure. Now, I'm going to be trying this as Mario this time, which I've never done before. But The Lost Levels was originally to be released here in America as a sequel to the original Super Mario Bros., but it was deemed by Howard Phillips of Nintendo of America to be too difficult for American audiences. Good call. Okay, I did not do that right. So that's what we're going to do here. Because I maintain that if this game had been released, it could have killed the Mario industry. Maybe even the gaming industry again altogether. Because that's how hard this game is. And what I'm trying to do is get to a trick where you can get a bunch of extra lives right at the start. And so far I'm not doing it. Okay, come on back. And you ask, why am I doing this? Because that's how hard this game is. Okay, I think I might know what I need to do. No, that can't be it. But the question that has me coming to mind with this is, why do we seemingly, willingly take on challenges? Why? We do things that are way too difficult for us to do, and do them willingly. By the way, these are poison mushrooms. Just want to show you what they can do here. And yet, it's something to do. In fact, we get bored with something if it's too easy. We willingly do things that are extremely difficult for us, and can even oftentimes get us very frustrated. I wonder if... And yet we do them anyway. Okay, I'm going to try to just go on ahead through the game then here. And if I have to look up... Well, that worked out brilliantly. If I look up something later on that can show me how to do that trick better. That was not intentional at all. Back when I was married, I remember going with my ex-wife once to the Titanic Museum when we were in Gatlinburg one time. And I remember going in, they have this exhibit where you can put your hand in water that's the temperature, or put your arm in water that's the temperature of the water around the Titanic. Well, I'm your typical man. I think, by golly, I'm going to impress my woman here. I'm going to show her what kind of man she got. And I roll up my sleeves and I stick my hand in because by golly, I can handle this. I am the man. Yeah, I lasted for about a minute before my hand was out of there. Or ever my arm was out there. But yet, it was something I did willingly. Why? What is it about us that we do this kind of thing? I've been reading through the Confessions of St. Augustine lately also, and I've heard it, and I've read by him talking about the plays that he used to watch as a youth and the things that men did, asking, why did I enjoy such things? He seems to treat it as, oh, I just realized I don't have the chat up here. He seems to treat it as a bug, but I think it's better to consider it a feature. That this especially is the way men are designed to be. Men are designed to be creatures of challenge, and yet I think to some extent this applies to women as well. We don't want things to be easy. We don't want things to not move us out at all. We want the things we do to matter. Okay, I'm gonna come down this time because I don't want to risk being caught in a warp zone because it's my plan to not take any warp zones through here because I want you all to see the game as it was meant to be played here. Which, by the way, this game has negative warp zones as well. It's got warp zones that can send you back to a world you've already finished. Oh yeah, this game also came to us first in 1993 in the Super Mario All-Stars edition, which is what I'm playing it on. That's why it's got Super Nintendo graphics. And Luigi can actually jump better in this one, as regards to being just another Mario clone in the first one. And yeah, this is something different. Bloopers dwell outside of the water on this one. Now, you might be looking at this and saying, look, I understand, I've heard that the lost levels is supposed to be far more difficult, but so far it's strange, but I'm not seeing where the difficulty lies. Oh, 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 oh. We have not even begun this game yet. This game went beyond Nintendo Hard. There's a reason I'm cautious about my every jump here. The Bible presents us with a world where men are called to do greater things. We're not told to just play it safe. Even in the garden, man is given a task to do. And sadly, he fails the very first time a challenge comes up where Adam sits back and lets the snake sweet talk his wife into making the stupidest decision ever made in the history of humanity. Yet when we move further from that, we see, for instance, Abraham. Or let's start with Noah. As you can see, his game is already getting difficult. Called to build an ark. And this is a pretty old man being asked to do this. And you never understood why Bowser keeps the means of his own destruction right there with him. Abraham is ordered to leave his homeland, go to a land of strangers, and dwell with them. And it doesn't get easier for any of the patriarchs after that. Jacob finds a woman he loves, has to work 14 years for her. And his whole history is filled with chaos. Joseph goes into exile, pretty much, in Egypt. Yeah, that was dumb on my part. And stays in prison. The story ends well for him, but it was horrible getting up to that point. Moses has to leave the Israelites for 40 years. Joshua has to go and conquer the promised land. Then we can get to the period of the judges with everything that they did there. Yep. Luigi is a much better jumper, but he's got horrible traction. David faces Goliath, and then, probably even more dangerous, King Saul, who wants to kill him constantly. Every single time you look in the Bible, people are being pushed to do dangerous things. And when Jesus calls his own disciples, he pretty much, it has been said by Bonhoeffer that when Jesus calls a man, he calls him to die. Trying to see if there's any hidden power-ups here. I'll take that. Paul, where we know about his life, and yeah, that's how different this one is. That springboard really shoots you up. Paul faced persecution everywhere he went, such that Ananias is told about Paul, saying that God says, I will show this man how much he must suffer for my name's sake. Now, if this ends up being a warp zone, yes, I will have Mario die to avoid that. In the early church, yeah, they had their share of persecution as well. And while I know I do have Catholic and Orthodox listeners, Martin Luther in the Middle Ages, he certainly faced, in the start of the Reformation, he certainly faced his struggles with what he was up against. And whatever you think about him, he certainly put himself in a position that took courage to deal with. Whew, cutting it close. Today, we're told to do the same thing, and yet we live in a world where we usually want to keep everyone safe. See, I heard the story today about Sonny Holston, who hosts The View, or one of the hosts of The View. And yes, I'm a strong conservative. And how she got a call from her son, who had apparently been brought in by police for criminal trespassing. He was somewhere where he shouldn't have been, and the officer even indicated this is a dangerous area. And she was saying, look, can't we just let him off here? There's no need to write a ticket up for him. He's a good boy. He's never really done anything wrong. He doesn't need anything on his record. And I gotta say, I thought it was extremely insulting. I mean, not just this whole idea of how we've heard for years no one is above the law, and then that changes quickly, but I'm wondering, did he end up calling his mother about this first? And honestly, one of the best things she could have done for him then is not get after a police officer, but instead they said to him, hey, what were you doing in a place like that? You should know better now. You listen to the police officers and you do everything that they say. No, instead it was an attempt to avoid dealing with what he did. That doesn't help anyone. I want to see if I can just make the... No! Nope, can't. Now you are starting to see why this game is so hard. Okay, we're going to avoid going down that pipe this time. See if maybe it might make anything different. Probably won't, but we can see. At least we got an extra life there. Where there is one thing we can do. Okay. I guess not. Yep, folks, we are on 2-2 immediate, and already we're struggling. Now, if it was Luigi, this would be a whole lot easier, but it's not. It's regular Mario. And Mario struggles with jumping higher, which is odd since what he's supposedly so well known for is his jumping ability. We have an age where it is harder and harder for us to take risk. And yet we're told about so many special things we're supposed to do. For me, I can say coming here to New Orleans, leaving my family behind, and studying at seminary, that was a great risk. Still is, to an extent, obviously. You know, I'm tempted to use save states, but I haven't done that so far. I'm not going to start now. And knowing that we're told, unfortunately, in our culture, that all of us are just extremely special. And why? Because we exist. Where so does everyone else. And this is where I think the self-esteem movement has really led us down. That we've said our worth comes just from us alone. And if we are not accepted as we are, then our value as humans goes down. And then you have things like the LGBTQ lobby, which wants us all to come and affirm their truth, whatever that means. You know, I even saw an episode today of Ellen Page being interviewed, and how she was saying, "My truth, my truth, my truth." And no, I will not call her Harriet Page because I'm not going to uphold a delusion like that. There is only truth, and when you live in a world like this, if a world doesn't measure up to you immediately and tell you that you are just awesome, then the problem is the rest of the world. A society cannot function this way. We cannot function in a world where challenging people is seen as a crime, where the worst thing you can do is offend someone. This is a society that is not ready to take on challenges. This is a society that is not ready to face anything that would make them go outside their comfort zone at all. And I'm not going to deny that I struggle with stepping outside my comfort zone on areas too. I have my weaknesses. I know them. But then again, part of the problem is that part of the solution for me is I do know these are weaknesses. And so many people today, the idea is the problem lies with everyone else. I mean, with Sonny Hostin, compare that to, say, Dave Ramsey, okay? His daughter writes a check once that bounces. Meaning, for those of you who weren't around the era of checks, that she did not have sufficient funds in her bank to cover what she said she could cover. And her dad, Dave Ramsey, and says, "Well, my dear, you are going to go down to the bank, and you are going to go to the manager, and you are going to apologize for lying to him." And she goes down. I've heard her tell the story, heard her tell it live, and she's crying her eyes out the whole time. And he's saying, "Are you Dave Ramsey's daughter?" And she's like, "Yes, yes, isn't this like child abuse or something?" And where eventually she does, of course, apologize to him in the midst of all her crying. And you know what? I guarantee you she never bounced a check again. Her dad refused to call to her. In fact, he made her do something that was uncomfortable. I'm absolutely certain she watched her checkbook from that day forward, because she never wanted to do that again. Challenge is something that should drive us to be better. Okay, if I don't do it this time, then I'm going to switch and go back to the beginning and start as Luigi. Because I'm starting to think it's just not possible. Okay, then again, I gotta keep trying this because this is a challenge. Wait, I think I'm remembering something now. Okay. I think I'm remembering something now. We're going to see if I'm right about this. If you're going to ever do anything great for Christ, you will have to step out of your comfort zone, and you will have to do things that are uncomfortable. Now, I'm not telling you do something because it is uncomfortable. I'm telling you though that if you want to do something worthwhile, you will inevitably have to do some things that are uncomfortable for you to do. And that's okay. And in doing this, I don't want you to think doing great things for Christ means, for instance, that you have to go, say, be a missionary overseas or something. Maybe you should. That's not my call. I would rather, instead of you thinking about you have to do great things for Christ, I would rather you think that you have to do things great for Christ. I could have sworn there was another block there. You know, one of the greatest things you could do for Christ in this generation, and something I still want to do very much, have a family, raise children. I find it so discouraging that women have been sold a lie that they should put off family so they can have a career. As if their greatest fulfillment in life will come from working for someone else besides doing work in their own household. And it's a lie that's been sold. And now we have a birth rate that's declining in our country because of it. A birth rate that if we keep going at this rate, we cannot last. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. I think I remember something else now. Yeah. There, finally. But you see, that's why this game is so difficult, because you have to remember all these things. And there's no clue that something like that block was hidden right there. So we finally made it past that level. And ladies, I'm not telling you don't have a career or anything like that. But if you have to choose between a career and a family, go with family. I mean, what could be a greater position to have in this world than raising up children to be the next generation? How could anything be better than that? One of my former bosses at the post office, she got pregnant. They'd been trying, she told me, but I wasn't expecting it. It was rather odd how it happened, because we had another girl who was working there at the time, who was in the counseling program, was apparently studying families, and I saw in the back she'd left a book on my boss's desk about raising children, and I went to my boss and I saw, I said, is there something I should know? And she said, no, no, we're trying, but no, we're not there yet. Okay. Then I don't think the week was even done before she came to me and said, yeah, so what I told you earlier, they just found out that she was pregnant. Okay? And yet, after the baby came, she left the post office. And I was thinking, good on you. Good, good, good. It's not because I don't miss working with her. She's an excellent boss. It's because what she was doing was saying, my family comes first. Now, maybe she might want to do things again after the baby gets a bit older and gets more able to do things on its own. Maybe. If she wants to, great. But for now, she's made the right decision. Family first. Unfortunately for men, it's harder and harder because here's something else. If men want to take a risk, they have to think there are some odds of success in their risk. I mean, I'm not going to take a risk, for instance, to bench press 200 pounds because I don't weigh that much. I've got a steel rod on my spine, and I'm incapable of doing that. It would be putting me in a position of danger, in one I don't need to be in. So I thought I could get that mushroom at the same time. To which, by the way, along those lines, ladies, just so you know, with men will do some of the stupidest things you can think of, all in the hopes of hearing one guy scream out of him, "You the man!" That's all it takes. Men, believe it or not, are very simple creatures. They're not that hard to figure out. And when men get together, we often like to one-up one another. I remember working with some colleagues when I worked at the Christian Research Institute, and we were all sitting around a table one time. Oh, I think I made a mistake. Yep, I'm not taking a warp zone. This won't take me back to World War I anyway. Because you get to go through bonus levels if you don't take a warp zone. As if the levels you've gone through haven't been hard enough, but hey, I'm willingly taking on suffering here. We were actually talking about what was the most physically painful thing we'd ever gone through. Where I noticed for too long that every single time one of us said something, every other guy seemed to thought we had to one-up them. Seeing as I've gone through major back surgery, I think I won overall. If you want a man, if we want men to marry today, men need to know that the person they are interested in will be loyal to them. And second, they want a woman who will be a source of peace. You cannot overestimate how important peace is here. Now, if you keep looking wherever direction you're looking, that's usually the way they'll go. I guess that's not always the case. I do like how there's regular enemies in these underwater levels now. But generally, yeah, underwater levels are horrible levels in video games. At least we got to a halfway point. A lot of men are walking away from marriage now because in their minds, it's not worth it. And who can blame them? Ladies, you have to let men know, what are you bringing to the table that makes it worthwhile? So close! I saw a clip just now on Steven Crowder with this show. Apparently it's some Mormon dating show where this girl gets up and before some people say where the guys were being superficial based on how the woman looked, it's very interesting. They had this veil set up. So all the guys, all they could hear was the woman talking. They couldn't see what she looked like at all. And she was making her spear on introducing herself, and everything was all about what she wanted to do, what she liked to do. And it was a collection of expensive hobbies like traveling in Australia and skiing and diving and boating. Things that would require a lot of investment. None of the guys were biting. None of them had any interest whatsoever. And I was thinking, hey, look, if I wanted someone to do all that stuff with, a guy could just get a guy to do that with. Now, he might like a girl who wants to do those things, but he's not going to build a life around that. Now, at this point, since we're about halfway through this episode, I want to remind you all again that this live stream, it's supported by people just like you. And I could use your support. We've seen we got a couple more subscribers today, and that is super. I can't believe I did that. That is super encouraging. Welcome aboard. So frustrating. So, welcome aboard any new subscribers. Well, I was aiming to get for one up there, but I guess it wasn't meant to be. So, welcome aboard, new subscribers. I hope you like, comment, share, and subscribe this channel. Also, if there's a game you want me to play, and I'm playing on the Switch, that's the only one I've got this capability set for, or a topic you want to see me discuss, if it's something I think I can handle, I'll take it on. Please also support my Patreon. Doing that enables me to do more of the things here that I am doing. And you just make things easier for me in my day-to-day struggles of being a seminary student and trying to provide for myself and everything else. Also keep in mind that I am looking for names I can use going through RPGs in future episodes. And if you do make a donation, I'll definitely keep that in mind as someone who's very serious about the channel and wants to see a name shared. So go to the link in my description. I've got a Patreon there. I've got a Substack. I do some writing on time to time for this channel there. I hope to eventually be doing a lot more, but right now that's where I'm at. I think this is one of those maze levers. Thing is, at least with this one, it tells you when you've made a mistake. So that way was correct. That was also correct. You might not be able to hear, but there is a little tone that, a little jingle that plays. Again, I'm doing that from memory. Somehow you were supposed to figure out that all this was there. So long, Big Bowsy! And if you're doing something right now that is challenging to you, taking on a new task, stepping out of your comfort zone, as long as you're not doing something immoral, keep at it. Don't give up. Usually if something's worth doing, it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. And that's okay. And odds are, whatever you're doing, you're not alone in doing it. One thing I'm always thankful for being on the spectrum is the friends I've got who help me out in those many, many areas where I know I am weak. Yeah, Lakitu will be back, unfortunately. There he is already. And for any of us, whatever we're going through, very few of us are truly alone. Most of us do have someone that can help us. Keep in mind, even when Paul went on his missionary journeys, he wasn't alone. He had companions. The Son of God himself did not go through life alone. He had companions with him. It's one of those things that I do, I mean, why on earth did I do that? You know, the sad thing is, in many ways, I think I'm doing better at this game than I normally have in the past. Yeah, you actually find Hammer Brothers here, where you have to face them directly. Let's hope there's not a warp zone here. Like I said, we're going through this game without warp zones. Now, if I can keep the firepower, that's going to be super helpful. Okay, I don't think this is a warp zone. his struggles. Like Jesus had his struggles with the ministry that they were assigned. I mean, you go read 2 Corinthians 1, and you realize Paul was in a world of struggle there. Now, here's something that gets difficult with this fact. You have to jump ahead, and you don't even know what you're jumping into at the time. And can you all imagine how many people would have given up on the Mario franchise if this had been the next game they had to play in the series? Whew, that was close. Sometimes I get quiet here. That's because this game causes so much anxiety at times because you have to make these split-second jumps. And something interesting about this game is, except for one kind of mini-boss character, I don't think there were any new enemies in this game. They just took what they already had and said, hey, can we make this even more impossible? Yeah, let's just put a hammer brother in the fourth castle. Or why not? Actually, I think that could have paused me had I gotten it right there. Yeah, that did not work out well. So you go read 2 Corinthians 1, and you read about Paul, how he despaired of life even to the point of death. Which is pretty much saying, yeah, for a while I just wanted to die. That's how bad it was. And Jesus says, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death even. Anybody relate to that one at times? But then you compare it to what's said in the Hebrews. The rest of us. That the Hebrews writer knew that his people were facing struggles. And yet, he expected greater things from them. And all the people that came before, they were examples of how to overcome struggle. They were examples for us. Abraham was meant to tell us about the history of the Jewish people. But he was also meant to show us about how we were to live. And that we were supposed to trust God like he was. Now, I don't know about you, but God's never asked me personally to go and leave everything behind and go to a strange people that are completely foreign to me and in a situation that could even be dangerous. And yet that's what was asked of Abraham, and he did it. Whatever you're facing today, odds are the challenge is not as great. It's pretty bad when the power-up's a trap. The challenge is not as great as what Abraham went through. And he went through it. And today, we know him as a father of the faithful. And many times, he wasn't. I mean, Genesis is one of the books of the Bible I'm going through now, and I'm reading about Abraham and how God says to him, "You're going to have a son." And what does Abraham do? He laughs. How many of you all have ever laughed at God? Yeah, that's what I thought. And I mean specifically, imagine if God is talking to you directly and telling you something that he's going to do for you, and you laugh at him. Abraham did. And he's still the father of the faithful. He still trusted anyway. He went home and had all of his family circumcised, which I think, gosh, that must have been an interesting conversation to have. Especially with Ishmael as a then teenage son at the time. Saying, I'm sorry, Dad, you want to do what? And Abraham underwent it himself. He trusted God to be in, even when it seemed ridiculous to him. Yeah, I knew that wasn't going to end well. The main thing, we want to get this power up every time because that gives us insurance against the hammer blow. And notice I'm not using save states. I mean, yes, I am saving my game, but there's a difference between that and save states. I'm not stopping in the middle of a level to give myself extra insurance. It's tempting, but no. You know, after a while, you come to hate hearing that tune for losing a life. Okay, I guess we don't have that insurance this time. And I guess we can't just rush there. So, some of you who might have been skeptics at the start of this game, I hope by now you're starting to see, oh, that's why they're called the Lost Levers. Yeah, I'm personally glad we got Doki Doki Panic reskinned for us. Well, that worked out well. Give some time just in case. Okay, yeah, there's nothing for the turtle shell to bounce up against. Can't go down that pipe for anything. Yeah, we did it! You notice that the number of toads in each castle is increasing. Level 4 has 4, 3 has 3, and that's a pattern that's going to keep going. I don't know why they put Buzzy Beaters in this game, since odds are no one's going to really have a fire flower around this point. Well, I do think upside down piranha plants were a pretty cool concept. I know they showed up in Super Mario Bros. 3, but this is where they actually showed up for the first time. And again, if you all think we've seen the hardest levers, ooh boy, you have no idea what's coming. But we are nearing the stopping point, so once again, people, please do consider becoming a donor to Gaming Theologian. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Oh yeah, here's something else that's new. The wind. You think, well, that seemed like a pretty nice feature there. Yeah, it was. There. Later on, not so nice. Well, that was a nice little gift there. Which I quickly used up. This is one point where it is easier to play with Luigi. Because you have to get a running jump, land on that block, and then jump from there to the next block at the same time. Not easy to do. Glad that thing didn't come bouncing back at me. I thought I could go underneath that. I guess not. We're going to try and finish this lever first before I shut down for the night. And if we don't finish it, that's going to be a save and quit for tonight. But we got halfway through the regular levers, which is actually a whole lot better than I was expecting. Wait. Thought I felt a little puff of smoke, which saw in which I think I have heard you can do wall jumps in these games, but I guess it wasn't there that time. Well, that was nice. There, made it. Okay, we're just gonna... It's gonna be a little bit long. We're just gonna keep going until I run out of lives. And then we'll do a save and quit. Uh, uh, I guess I'll try and end on a positive note, saying that whatever challenges you're facing, first off, if you've willingly taken on a challenge to step out of your comfort zone some, good on you. Okay? But don't give up at the first sign of trouble. 'Cause quitting's an easy habit to start and a hard one to stop. Keep going. Learn to face it. And if you need help, that's okay. Reach out and get it. If you need help from professionals in the support industry or something that you're struggling with, go ahead. Get it. It's okay. You're not being looked down on for it. At least not by me. And I encourage also, try and get a family. Try and put marriage first. Put the good of a family before a career. And men, if you're married, you make sure you provide for your wives. And women, give your men a nice home to come home to. A man loves to be out in the world fighting for his wife, but he hates to have to come home and fight with her. Okay, I think I'm going to try and get to that area up there. I know how you're supposed to do it. Let's hope this doesn't lead to a warp zone, because we're not taking warp zones here. Good. didn't have enough volume there, or height there. Yeah, that's what you have to do. You actually have to jump on those things just to make it past. So we're going to do this again. And I'm pretty sure unless I get 14 more coins, I am on my last life for this round. Okay, well that was that. And friends, I'll see you next time then, probably Friday night. But until then, remember, whatever you do, do for the glory of God, even your gaming.